We know the triangle trade, the block itself is looking for concurrent punches, concurrent straight hands, concurrent jabs. Now, you know, you may need the second to the
52 blocks, full throttle. We don't hold hands or warm bottles. You won't be coddled. I unapologetically let my nuts hang till tomorrow I offend, unfriend, and unfollow. It's 52 blocks, full throttle. We don't hold hands or warm bottles. You won't be coddled. I unapologetically.
And good evening. Welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 468. And tonight we'll be covering 52 blocks. And we have Lyte Burly on and we have Ben Myers on. And both of them will be speaking on it. If you got questions, let me know. I did get a few in and we're going to definitely get to them. And so if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from. Smash that like button. And I'm going to be bringing these folks up and we're going to hit it off. Just need to change this screen setting. There we go. That's what I want. Hey guys, how are you?
Salute.
Good, man.
Good. So, yeah, all right, we're gonna jump into it, man. Thanks you guys for coming on. A big thank you to Ben for the referral. Appreciate it. And then, and so, okay. So before we get into the 52, Lyte, what was your martial arts background before you got exposed to 52 blocks?
Well, you know that back in that time, it was a lot of karate. So it was the YMCA. I was doing the YMCA. I think I made it as far as the yellow belt. You know, I didn't have
those
that
days, right?
back then. Yeah. My discipline wasn't that strong back then, but I made it up to a yellow belt. That was like my first hit at any type of martial arts was karate at the local YMCA. And from then on, then it was 52 blocks, which would be the next martial art that, you know, I paid attention to. It was around like 11 to 12, you know, slap boxing, fighting was big back then. And then eventually I got into other arts like Tai Chi and Wing Chun, Muay Thai, did some wrestling. So, you know, fairly well-rounded in martial arts. But, yeah, karate was the first.
I think all of us, right, around our age, man, we all started in some type of traditional martial art, didn't we? I mean, and then I look back now and it's like, seems like not only so long ago, but like so foreign to what I'm doing now. But hey, don't knock it, man. It was the entry for all of us, right? It piqued our interest and it's kind of how we all got started, you know? So
karate promotion. Karate doing pretty well for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you catch wind of 52?
Well, you know, back when I was coming up, that was the way a lot of the higher level fighters fought. Of course, there were fighters that didn't. It wasn't like everybody was using 52, but it was the high upper echelon of fighters that were usually the guys that were in, you know, boxing was the biggest thing back then when I was coming up. So it was usually the guys that were in the gym training boxing to some degree was using 52 in fights. And, you know, and I think one of the first people that caught my eye was a guy by the name of True God. And he did what I know was triangle trade, what the move is called, and kind of stole off from the guy. It wasn't even the fight, but I liked it the way that he distracted him and then attacked him. Like that concept of that style of fighting was real attractive. And from then on, I was trying to study it. I had like one move, you know, because back during those days, the teaching of 52 wasn't as what it is now, you know, where, you know, there's a whole online course and this method, you know, there's a method. It was pretty much you picked up, you know, whatever knack that person did, whatever move, a couple of moves they had. So the teaching of it was kind of like we kind of imitated what we seen. But back then, like I said, all of the guys, most of the top fighters fought that way.
So when you say, I mean, you're like Brooklyn in particular, or?
Well, I was in Queens, and so
Oh,
Queens
Queens.
was trickled down from Brooklyn. So if you're in Queens, a lot of people that live in Brooklyn come to Queens. I lived in Brooklyn too. I was younger when I lived in Brooklyn, but a lot of the guys from Brooklyn would come to Queens. So Queens had that overlap of 52 because it was definitely a Brooklyn thing. There was more 52 block fighters per square inch in Brooklyn than I think in any borough.
Interesting. Like, why do you think? Was it just coincidence or just?
Well, Brooklyn was always known for having like the most aggressive fist fighters. Like if there was any borough that could be crowned like the borough of fist fighting in New York, it was
Hmm.
Brooklyn. And then then you look at the boxers, the Tysons, the Zab Judas, the fighters that come out of Brooklyn.
Oh,
And
all right. Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
for some reason they're just real good fist fighters and hard punches. Like they're Brooklyn Knights, Brooklyn guys were different type of fighters. So 52 was way more heavier than Brooklyn than any other borough. And Queens, like I said, we got it a lot of it just because the Brooklyn guys usually came to Queens to go shopping, or deal with their family members. So a lot of Queens brothers kind of followed suit too with that style of fighting.
Nice, nice. And Ben, when did you? Is that where you first saw it in New York City? Is that when you first kind of?
Queens.
Actually, I went as a kid in New Jersey, in New Brunswick. I was at the basketball court, and everything always pops off at the basketball court, right? Nobody's ever happy. We were right by Rahway Prison,
Oh,
and so there would be some heavy gorilla ball that would break out at this basketball court, of me being a scrawny little redhead kid. The only skill I had was running my mouth, and one day I'm running my mouth, and this guy starts doing this, like cycling his hands, and I was like, what was that? Needless to say, he was outweighed me by about 100 pounds and was about a foot and a half taller than me at the time. So I was like, hey, and just pieced out and left the basketball court because I wasn't about to get beat up by this dude. But it caught my attention.
yeah.
And then the second connect for me was Lethal Weapon, because they brought in a guy who did Jailhouse Rock for that
That's
final
right.
fight scene,
Uh-huh.
right?
Heard
And
about that.
when I was coming up in the Navy, training for SEAL training, all of us were all doing this kind of MMA thing, and we were all into that fight scene because that was where the Gracies came in, and that was where they did this. That was the first time they did the whole like blend in one fight, right? And so I started reading up on Jailhouse Rock, and that's when I saw that move in one of the articles I read, and I was like, "Oh, hey, check it
That's
out."
that's what I ran away from some years back.
That's what I was fleeing from my life from back in the day.
Jeez, man. So when this started piquing your interest, like, I guess when did you kind of start training in it? I mean, I know you're on the street, you're kind of slap boxing, but I guess the quote unquote formal training, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of like the sparring side of 52 blocks with slap boxing. You got a lot of chance to work your blocks. Slaps can come from more angles than punching can. So like learning to block against fast moving slaps and backhands and overhands was kind of like the training method of your defense that that really carried on into like me seeing like what it was all about, because there was really no breakdown of like what we were trying to like what was being accomplished. But because of the slap boxing, you got to see that it was the defense that mattered over anything, like ability not to be hit. And
Mhm.
I think that was the most captivating part of 52 to me, was that it was really based upon self-preservation, like not being hit and making you more of like a counter striker.
Right, right. Man. Wow. And so was there a particular teacher you had that kind of guided you along?
Well, it was a few guys. There's a lot of guys that were that were instrumental in helping me figure out different moves, different names. Guy named Ramel that I came out with when I started back putting it on YouTube back in like 2007. Ramel. There's a guy by the name Mr. G that passed away. A lot of my cousins fought like that. So that was kind of your teachers. Like there was no real credible, at least on the streets, maybe in the boxing gyms, there could have been a lot more scientific work being done on the actual defense of 50. But in the streets, it wasn't really taught like that. You kind of imitated what you've seen and
The family members. Yeah, gotcha.
And then practiced it in your slap boxing and prayed that it worked in real time. Because it could go all wrong for you. It didn't be like
what happened?
Like just doing 52 in the fight. A lot of people, it didn't work for them. So I think that, I think that too was one of the reasons why 52 came to a point where it was about to die out, because it didn't really.
Which I'm going to get to. Yeah, I find that fascinating when you were bringing that up. And I got a question. I'm just catching up here. I'm trying to be better at this. Sometimes I neglect the comment section here. All right, we got Eric O'Brien. Hey, we got Nicholas, David Parker, Brett Reese, UA from Germany, Mike Raymond, but actually Seth, my man Seth. And we got Renee. Hello from the home of 305 and the best pizza in the world. And we got Ryan. I remember those days. So Seth is asking, how many actual blocks are in 52?
That kind of goes back to the thing that it wasn't the thing that was being taught the way I'm doing it now today. So you met a guy, he may have had 2 or 3 blocks that he used that he could teach you, and this guy here, like nobody had a full system. So in the name 2 blocks, what to say 52 blocks? 52 blocks was part of the 5% nation, and that's the name that stuck, was 52 blocks. And it's because 5 + 2 is 7. It fits their thing and their ideology, which is all good. That's the name. So the name wasn't trying to say that there's actually 52 blocks. No.
Got it. Okay. Got it. So the 5%. Okay. And so Ben, did you when did you start? Did your training not kick in until? Did you do any training at all before you met Lyte in it?
In 52 blocks now. I was doing MMA and the whole Vunak blend JKD stuff, and then got linked up with the guys at a Straight Blast and was doing that kind of direction where it started becoming more MMA based, and did Crazy Monkey Defense, which was like their boxing platform in the early 2000s, and that involves just constantly keeping your hands up here in the front like that. And at the Crazy Monkey Defense Trainers Seminar, I was at Jerry Welzel's house and we were watching a documentary on 52. And then I kind of got real into boxing and boxing history at this point. And I was diving into YouTube, and that was right when Lyte was like really pushing a whole bunch of stuff out on YouTube, right? And so I started watching his channel, and just being real impressed with how much of the history that he knew behind the style, going all the way back, to the early days of boxing in America. And we kind of like started corresponding through Facebook. It wasn't until 2015, I think, when I was down here doing this trafficking program for the first time, that I reached out to him and I was like, hey, what do you think about having 52 be part of the platform that I teach these kids? Because them being street kids and it having kind of like a hip hop base and being from the jailhouse and all the kind of legends that follow it, and the b-boy hand positions and the dance and all the different aspects really speaks to the Latin American kids down here, right? More than like doing Selim Tao or, I don't know, whatever
Or traditional
karate,
art for that matter.
yeah, whatever karate guys do or whatever, right? Having a boxing base and having something that's more street
Gotcha.
um, speaks to their background, right? They have guys like from Argentina. They got Nicolino Loque. You know, they got great defensive fighters that use the hand blocks and the slipping and all that kind of stuff. And so Lyte and I started talking. And then from there, when I flew back, I left here the first time in 2018. I went up to Atlanta to train with him to kind of lay the foundation.
Yes.
Nice, nice. We got Robert Small here, and Michael, very similar to Keithside. Okay. All right. All right. So, like, what made you like just, obviously, at what age or when did you embark on this, like, going around the country to try to really just get the historical aspect of this? Was that in the early 2000s?
Um, yeah, you could say it early. I think it was probably around like 2000. Well, I put out, there was no videos on 52 blocks at this time when I went to the internet. I think when I put in 52, a 52 bomber jet came up, but there was no videos. There was no discussion happening. So I put out a video that was the spark that pretty much started the conversation. It was, does Kimbo know 52 blocks? And that's when Kimbo was really big on the internet. He was fighting, backyard fighting and winning.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was like, a mention of his name was like 200,000 hits. So just because I did use his name in the title, it brought a lot of traffic to the video. And that was kind of the spark then. And I think it was around like 2009, 10 when I really started moving around. My first seminar was in Texas, in Austin. I think that was the first seminar I ever did on 52 was in Texas. And at that point, it was kind of like show people what 52 is and at the same time show them through sparring. And, at that time, I was like, anybody come to the park, I'm willing to spar with you to show you what 52, to show the excellence of 52, like what it can do. And it was like a kind of like an open-end challenge. Sometimes they went pretty good. Sometimes they got a little weird. You know what I'm saying? But I think that was the time of like battle testing what I knew and how it would work against other systems. Because, 52 blocks at its time, it didn't really have to deal with a Muay Thai or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It didn't have to deal with those type of things. And I didn't want to just like typecast it the thing. I wanted to be able to spar against Muay Thai men, wrestlers, and see what happens. So that was the journey then. So it was right around 2010. I really took it on the road and started going different places. And, it was a absolute blessing. I met all types of martial artists, on the path. So it's been great for that.
Before you did this, and I want to definitely get to where you were going around and that, what happened in the 90s? I think this is like really fascinating. I find it historically fascinating. Like what happened in the 90s and then how you, based on what happened in the 90s, kind of, I'm assuming segue gave you inspiration to what you're doing. You did in early. Okay. So what happened?
Well, in the 90s, it's like, there's a book called When Crack Became King. And one of the guys that I seen do 52 blocks, he's in the book, True Guard. His name was True Guard. That's the guy that I was talking about. But it's when crack cocaine really hit the black neighborhood. Like, in the 70s and 80s, fist fight thing. Like, if you knew how to fight, you can go anywhere. It was like going somewhere with your weapon if you knew how to handle yourself. But by the when crack cocaine became king, it kind of started destroying the black community. Fist fighting was a thing of the past, and like hip hop was the only thing that really survived that when you think about it. And even hip hop felt the effects of it. But at that point, before that, it was like hip hop, 52 blocks, breakdancing. Those things were like of the 70s and 80s. They were like major.
Mm.
And after after the drugs really hit the hoods, then it became hip hop, and the other two kind of got wiped out. Breakdancing and 52 blocks, and breakdancing not just because of not all. It still had a hole, but there were times when they used to have breakdancing wars where the guys would get in front of their faces. It was aggressive too. Like it was serious business. Like, but once guns and drugs got involved, now they're killing each other. They went
Screw the hands, man.
through this breakdancing thing. Like we're gonna shoot up the neighborhood. So that's what really put 52 blocks on its way out. And after that, it was almost like a dream, like it never happened. I would when I got to Manhattan, I would ask people like, have you heard of 52 blocks? And it was like, what are you talking about? Like, nah, never.
What do you mean? There's 52 blocks in Manhattan?
Yeah, exactly. Like I figured everybody was doing it, but Manhattan, it was there, but not really. Like not like Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I'm not too sure about the Bronx, what was going on up in the Bronx, but so it was like it never even happened. Like it was like almost a dream. I was like, and I started believing, think like maybe there was no 52. Maybe maybe it was all a figment of my imagination. And when I told my teacher, that became one of my head boxing teacher, Mr. Wilson Pitts, he was like, no. He said back in Philadelphia they called it wall boxing, and they would put you. And they would throw punches at you, and your whole thing was to defend without going back. The wall was only made to make you where you can go lateral, so where you can start learning how to use angles instead of backing up. And he said, you need to put a DVD out on this, or the information is going to die with you.
Yeah.
He was like, the information was lost because of that. So he inspired me to put the DVD out, and it was a bit.
So before okay, and then that's kind of what prompted you, to embark. So, and actually, when you started putting the stuff out, that's when Ben started seeing stuff in there. And I'm just catching up, making sure I'm not. Anything you want to chime in, Ben, before I'm checking out these comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the key thing is understanding the cultural undertones of what's going on, right? I mean, what Lyte is talking about is when the big crack boom in the 90s hit and guns became a thing. All of us when we were kids, you would fight, you just fist fight, right? I mean, like that was normal. And so the fist fighting arts, the street fist fighting arts went the way of the dodo, right? Like they just went away. They started being extinct. But if you look at like the interviews with Mr. Pitts and Mr. Burly, where they're talking boxing history, like they go through guys like Peter Jackson and George Dixon and Jack Johnson and Kid Gavlin, and they tie the history in through all these guys. There's this huge history that was going to die, right? Boxing, I'm a boxing nerd, right? Like I sit around and I watch boxing videos. I just nerd out over boxing history all day long. You can ask my wife. She's like, oh my God, boxing history again. Shut up. But it's just, I love it, right? And so as I'm researching this stuff and these blocks, and I was born in Philly, right? I came up half my life in New Jersey. So you're exposed to all these kind of similar things where you see people. It's not just the standard like Marcus of Queensberry and hands out like this. You see things like the Philly shell or the Michigan shell or the Dracula defense that Gene Fulmer used. And what 52 is like they took all those defenses and they codified it into a system, right? And those defenses, each one has its place in the fight. Like Fulmer used the Dracula defense to beat Sugar Ray Robinson, the greatest of all time, twice, right? And so it's through researching this stuff and geeking out over it that was what led me to talking to Lyte. And then I was just fascinated by the fact that he went out to the West Coast and up north and down south and all over the country talking to everybody about it. And there's all these like really interesting ties for me as a boxing nerd and a guy who just loves boxing. I mean, the thing through Straight Blast was, mid martial arts. I was boxing when I was 9.
Right.
I came up the only white kid in an almost all black neighborhood. And the way it was going for me for a while was I just got chased around and beat up every single day. Me and my two
daily
girls.
routine is I run around, I get chased.
And I was literally running for my life, right? And I had a neighbor named James, and James is in the parking lot one day with this guy from the YMCA, and they're doing boxing. And I just went out there and begged them to teach me, like, please teach me boxing. Because I was scared for my life, right? Like, I'm this big. There's all these black dudes running around throwing rocks at me. It was terrible, right? So they started teaching me boxing, and me and James.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It's just the way you.
No. It's funny looking back. It wasn't funny at the time. It's funny now, but me and James get this idea because we're learning to box. Like, well, we don't want to box each other, like, out of respect. So we took these boxing gloves and we stood in my front yard and we would just challenge every kid that came down the street. Hey, do you want to box? Like, one after the other. And we took turns beating everybody in the whole neighborhood up, right? Because we could box and they couldn't, right? So they'd come in windmilling and we're like, pap, 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 and tearing these dudes to pieces. And eventually kids just stopped coming down our block. And so boxing going way back, I was like 9 at that time, 10 maybe, I don't know. Boxing has this place in my heart that no other art does, and the history is fascinating. I mean, Lyte can talk more about his time studying the history and all the great contributors, guys like Jersey Joe Walcott and all these other people, but it's fascinating style to me, right? And then it ties into hip-hop, and I'm a total hip-hop head too, so it has all the connections that for me are that seminal part of that 90s, the cross colors and hip hop and, all that stuff from the 90s was my childhood, right? Like those were my formative years,
It's fair to say while you were in the yard there boxing, you were no longer getting rocks thrown at you.
It's funny. It went away after a while. They didn't want to throw rocks at me anymore.
I bet, man. I'm just catching up here in the comments. I'm going to get right back. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions. I'm sure about the Bronx, it was definitely going on. Wu-Tang Forever, Michael Blackgrave. There's a book called Street Kingdom that mentioned 52 early on, Seth. Okay. And have you ever seen any boxing cultures adopt 52 or have something similar? Here in the Mexican gyms in San Antonio, you see real similar work with their fighters. Interesting. So,
Sure.
Lyte, any what say you?
We'll bring that question back again.
Sure.
I was down there in San Antonio.
Yeah. So his question is, have you ever seen any boxing cultures adopt 52 or something similar? Question mark. Here in the Mexican gyms of San Antonio, you see real similar work with their fighters.
Well, he said boxing cultures or boxing coaches, or I missed
just boxing cultures.
Well, yeah, well, it's definitely accepted in boxing. Like, from what my good friend was saying here is that the great thing about boxing, because it's like a melting pot of martial arts. I mean, of fighters, to where, unlike a Brazilian jiu-jitsu or something like that, that's more Pacific. In boxing, you got white fighters, Mexican fighters, black fighters, Spanish fighters. And now we got Ukrainians. The pot keeps on growing, and because of that, fighting is basically culture. Broken down, and black culture of fighting is to taking the least amount of damage while dealing out maximum damage. As extreme as that sounds, that's black culture. Like, there were fights that you can go in out the neighborhood, go fight somebody, win the fight, but get a black eye and come back, and they'll be like, "Oh, who kicked your ass?" And you're like, "Nah, I won the fight, but I got a black eye." It's like, "Oh, he kicked your ass." And it's that extreme. Like, like pretty much fight or fight, we're taking no damage. So what type of system would that pressure create? A defensive system. So if black fighters are into not taking no damage, dealing out the most damage, where a Mexican fighter is like, let's go, like, toe
I'm
to
gonna
toe,
throw up the
baby.
ring, and I'm gonna keep pressuring
Run,
you and pressuring
run, blow for
you.
blow. Let's chop the tree and see who's standing. So it's just that create these fighting systems. And boxing, since it's given belts to so many champions, we got so many different cultures. So 52 has been a culture of boxing because it was black fighters that brought defense into boxing. Before boxing became the sweet science, it lacked the defensive prowess that was brought in by black fighters. The Jack Johnsons, the Joe Gans, the man that's credited with perfecting the jab. And I heard about it. So when I looked at old fights, I looked to see who was jabbing. And there was literally almost jabbing was not even a thing. like if you look back at the Jack Johnson days and when he's fighting terrible Tim McGovern, terrible, what's that guy named? Terrible McGovern. I forgot his first name. But these guys are not there's no jabbing. They're walking in, they're coming. And then you see Joe Gans, and then after him, the introduction of like putting the left hand out and then throwing the right hand over it. So it was that, it's that base that was the cradle of 52 blocks as a system, because these same fighters were coming home from the gym back into the ghetto. And they were bringing what they learned, and they were getting into fights, and you would see them do it. Like there was a guy named Ishmael from where I lived. He was the Golden Glove champion. He was like 115 pounds, and he was kicking everybody's ass, and big guys too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like you were saying, like they're throwing haymakers. He's throwing like hooks and uppercuts and and liver shots and kidney shots. Like nobody could stand with that against that type of information. And his defense was 52. So 52 has always been in the culture of boxing, just not by the name of 52.
Okay, we got a couple questions, and we'll get Ben's take. Okay, how many different styles of 52 blocks are there?
Well, that's kind of hard to say. If I would say nowadays, there's a lot. I think it's really not the different styles. It's just the different take. It's kind of like boxing. You look at boxing. What is boxing? 6 punches, some footwork, head movement. It's really a simple art, but how people teach it makes it different. Like when I went to go get my boxing book at Gleason's, I had to work with all of the coaches. We had to go around like a circle. So Spanish guy I started working with, he said, Lyte, it's all about the body. You bang the body. You got to bang the body. Then I went to the black coach, and he was like, it's all about head movement. You can't be hit like you got, you know what I'm saying? Like, and each coach had a different take on the same information. So I would say there's just different variations of takes on 52, not like different styles of 52, different mindsets, and so like this, I don't agree with the 52 blocks came from the jail culture, but there are people who went to jail and experienced 52 in there, so that's their experience. I'm not knocking it or taking anything away. So that person's 52 may be different from someone who was in the streets using their 52 because of ordinance and stuff like that. So I just think it's the approach over staff.
No, fair enough. Good answer. Yeah, and we got one more question, and let's see. I want Ben to chip in. So this question is from Brian. Didn't you train? Just get his first name. Pete Coltz, Kaulz. I'm going to assume that's it. Up in New York around the time, I seem to remember something about that. So, Pete Coltz. Does that sound familiar?
Peter Cutts, yeah, that's
Peter Cutts. Cutts and Seth Colt. Okay.
Gun hand Burly there. Very good with the guns. That man is amazing.
He's a gun guy. Okay.
Yeah, very serious with it. very serious.
Okay. All right, before I move on, okay, here we go. Mike Raymond, Terrible Terry McGovern. Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry, Ben. Anything you want to chime in before I go ahead?
Well, I mean, what you see, like, and this is just from years of conversations and messaging with Lyte, and him talking about the conversations that he had with his teachers, and then studying boxing history myself and geeking out over it. What you see is, like, if you go back through the history, right? You look at guys like Peter Jackson, who was in his era considered the greatest heavyweight of all time, right? And he developed footwork that started to set him apart. And then a guy named George Dixon came in, and George Dixon, he had this real tight spinning footwork because guys would hit him in the legs with billy clubs, so he couldn't allow himself to be pushed up against the ropes, right? And if you watch him, he's got this real slick clinch boxing thing where he does these spins and he'll cuff dudes and kind of circle around on himself, right? And then Jack Johnson comes in after that, and he brings this crazy clinch game where he's doing bicep control and elbow control and hitting off of the controls. And then Kid Gavlin comes in with what's called Comstock style, right?
There's a name I haven't heard in a while.
So all of this stuff is part of 52, right? It's like pieces, and the pieces, everybody brings pieces, and the culture is different. Like street culture is different. Like Lyte is saying, this isn't something that where it's passed like a kata, right? Like it comes up in conversation and people trade blocks, right? You'll see guys like doing whatever, and they trade a couple blocks and they do a little bit of slap boxing, and it's kind of like they kind of nod at each other like they both know what's going on, and then it breaks up and everybody goes and drinks a 40, right? It's not
All that order.
It's not like a style, you know. But if you really want to look at fighters who exemplify 52, you have to understand each piece and then look at that fighter for that piece. So Johnson for the clinch game, Gavlin for the Comstock game, Walcott did all the slick stuff. If you want to see Walcott and Archie Moore, like, are probably
Archie Moore, man, huh?
Yeah, probably the two clearest with the different D shapes for their head, and Archie Moore was always cakewalking and gangster walking and all kinds of slick stuff in the ring. So you have to, it's pieces from each one of those guys, and they put it together, and that's kind of that is 52. Does that make sense?
No, I mean, no, I'm just, again, I'm so fascinated with history. What I'm trying to do is I'm just making sure I'm not missing any questions. I'm just backing up a bit. So just for the fun of it, how many blocks are in the 52 AOD? And you already answered that. What's up, Shadow? Love Jack Johnson from Ken. That was a solid question. Mike Raymond, Archie Moore wouldn't have been a champion for as long as if it wasn't for 52. Seth. Seth Raymond, son of Mike. Fine young man. All right, I'm just making sure. What's a good word, brother? Do you have any video footage of drill sparring fighting available anywhere? This is Renee, and you got a YouTube channel, right? Be on there.
If you looked at my channel today, I don't think you would know that I used to post at least 5 52 block videos every day for years. Like, I've really kind of slowed down because I do a lot of reaction videos, and a lot of it was because I've done it for 15 years, and now I have online courses, and so I'm for the people that actually pay monthly for information, I've kind of cut back.
Oh, okay, makes sense. Okay.
But if you go back and look on my channel, I all of that's there. Sparring when we won the Golden Gloves, me testing it with an MMA fighter, like, it was all happening at that moment. I even took one of my fighters down to California, because out there on the beach they have these crowds, like where you can get a crowd, like if you like painting or you're doing a show, the tourists stop and they kind of form this circle
Yeah,
around you.
on the beach, I could bet. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, when I seen that, I said, I want a circle. Like I want to be a part of one of those circles. So I took my fighter down there, young Burly at the
Who wouldn't
time.
want to be?
Yeah, like the circle was it was the coolest shit out. Like you have
Yeah.
on that beach, and like that was like you made it. So I went there and I paid people to try to knock my fighter out. I said, I'll give you $50 if you can knock him out. And of course, people jumped at that, and we had our circle. We had we had
Really?
we had Mexican gang members giving it a try, and it was so. There's a lot of footage. I say all that to say is that there's a lot of footage of sparring and and
We got to
everything.
get your name your channel for the person that asked.
Yes, that's 50
Um,
info.
I'm sorry, what was it again? I'm sorry.
52 blocks info, all one word.
52 Blocks Info YouTube. Got it. Thank you. Sandy Sadler. There's a name. Sandy Sadler
Oh,
and Willie Pep, man.
oh,
Oh.
I've so many times I could I almost commentate it. Like I could narrate that fight. I've seen it.
Man, I mean,
Rocky
really,
Martin. That
really
was
You see it's starting to have a resurgence, right? You see Dominic Cruz using Pep's footwork, and you see different guys in MMA are starting to do cross arm defense now, right? It's starting to come back again. It's real similar to what we've been talking about. How culture influences you and I, Dean, about how culture influences, the development of the art, the culture and the environment influence the development of the art. The wall boxing, because Lyte touched on that came out of the prison. The whole concept behind wall boxing was that you're in a cell and you don't have room to move, right? So the guys that taught wall boxing, that was the inception of that, was guys with no room, and how are you going to defend yourself if you can't use footwork, right? And head movement only has a limited amount of applicability. I can move my head, 6 or 8 inches one way or the other back. I can't pull back. I mean, I can pull my chin in, but I can't pull back because there's a wall
concrete
behind
wall.
me, right? So you're going to bang your head into the wall. So these blocks and these shapes for defense, there is a prison influence, right? And if you talk to the guys who practice the prison type influence, it's much more like, it's less boxing and much more kind of combatives oriented. But again, it doesn't mean it's not. It's kind of like, well, you and me have been talking about the project I'm doing for Red Bull Wing Chun, right? There's all these different branches of Wing Chun, and they all come from different. It's Wing Chun, like at its root, it's Wing Chun, right? But they're different because of the cultural influences as the boats moved around or wherever the guys set up shop. And is there a Hakka influence that took over, or some kind of village kung fu influence that influenced the development in that area? Or like they call Hong Kong style Wing Chun fast hand Wing Chun, because the guys' weapons are banned and they're fighting in alleyways that are this big, right? That I can't even walk down without turning sideways. So it's all real tight. All that stuff affects the development of the art itself. And Lyte can talk about when he went out to the East Coast and worked with the guys out there. There's some well-known guys out there that did some stuff and filming with some of the old head guys on the East Coast, and how they talked about how these things that we're talking about, where things are kind of passed around the campfire, right? For lack of a better way of putting it. It's not a codified system as much as it is all these cultures and all these influences informing and creating this thing that they call 52. Does that make sense?
No. I think it makes total sense, and especially your correlation to the prisons being against the wall, maybe, and how that influenced Philadelphia, the wall work there. No, it makes complete sense. Matter of fact, Brian Moberg had a question. Looks like I have, yes, apologies, Brian. Just ask again. Is there a stylistic difference between 52 from the street and from the prison? And Ben kind of just touched on that, but
I
anything
think he
else?
just answered that.
I,
Yeah.
I think that yeah, I think like and just to build on that, and um, and this is this I can say this because I'm a newer person sitting here as Lyte Burly is. I've been my heyday. I was a criminal all my life, so I'm very uniquely very connected to the criminal underworld. And one thing that I have to say about 52 in jail was that it didn't come to jail. It just 52 block men went to jail. Like these same people that were on the streets fighting ended up being the same people's in jail. And they altered that from, as you speak, from being in jail. Just like a chef. If a chef goes to jail, he's still a chef. He's just a chef in prison that can take ramen noodles, beef sticks, and make a hell of a meal, because he's a chef. You know what I'm saying? So, and that was the part of 52 blocks going to jail, is that a lot of black men went to jail, and what went to jail with them were their fighting skills. And within that, the altering, you may have to alter, like, of course, if you're fighting in a smaller space. So there's really no difference more than just an altering of environment. You're in
Yeah.
environment.
No. Okay. Okay. Nick.
Look at Dean. Look,
Sure.
look at a guy like Willie Pep is a good example of a guy who uses almost completely just head movement and footwork as
Those
evasion,
sweet
right?
man.
Right. And you look at a guy like that, or Dominic Cruz, who mimicked his work. You can't do that in a confined space. So that part of the art gets put aside, and the hand shapes take precedence because you can't move your feet.
You can't
Can't
move, so you better be, 100%. Yeah,
Right.
Like your analogy to the Wing Chun, you're going down the alley, man, like this, man. You're
Right.
gonna be
Right.
I'm just making sure I'm just catching up. I feel bad when I miss questions. Just bear with me, folks. The comments are flying in, so I'm really trying to catch up on these. Apologies. So were you testing under MMA rules? I'm going to assume so, right?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so here's a question from Nicholas. So 52 blocks comes from boxing and was picked up in the system, made to be more combative. You say sparring. Well, do you use? We're going to get to the weapons in a bit, Nicholas. I don't want to jump to that quite yet, but I can definitely get to your first. So 52 blocks from boxing and was picked up in the system, made to be more combative. Yeah, you guys kind of touched on that. I mean, if you're in a small cell, so okay.
Yeah, you're in a small cell, and you're also not going to drag the fight out, right? I mean, the art part of the art kind of takes a back seat to getting the job done. You know what I mean?
So from boxing to the street and then to prison, and then when okay, I think I'm caught up. I think. I'm hoping. What about certain folks in the 52 realm that believe that the 52 goes beyond prison and goes to Africa and Egypt? We're going to touch on that with the. We're going to get to there, Ryan. Promise you. Rocky Marcel 5'9", yeah, and hit like a ton. Yeah, understood. Okay, Nicholas. Yeah, thank you for understanding. We're definitely going to get to weapons, though, Nicholas. I promise you. So, okay, I want to get to, this is fascinating, by the way. I love the history and hearing these old time greats. Okay, you went on an embarkment, like you wanted to travel the country and talk to all these people, and that kind of transcended or ignited you basically to there. So, but it sounds like you really went deep in far as the history of 52, its point of origin, the influence, and etc. So I'd like to hear on that. What was the inspiration for you to do this?
It was my teacher, Mr. Wilson Pitts. I got to give a shout out to Mr. Wilson Pitts, who trained with, had the ability to see Eddie Futch and Georgie Benton actually train, fighters.
Names.
Have Georgie Benton teach him. Like, I'm blessed to say that's part of my lineage, that my teacher studied under Georgie Benton, when he was Georgie Benton. But it was Wilson Pitts. His thing with me was that, he was saying that all information you have, when you have this type of information, you have a duty to share it. And he was saying with that you need to put out a DVD, you need to get this information out. So that was really the spark of it, is that, if I didn't, I felt like 52 blocks would just die. Like I said, nobody was talking about it. Nobody was speaking about it. And I'm not just patting myself on the back with this, but I am going to pat myself on the back, is that pretty much I got this whole conversation started. Like, and this is what I was looking for. Because when I started in the beginning, people was telling me I made it up. There was a guy named Phil Edmore who wrote a whole piece about how I made it up. So I was way happy, I was more than overjoyed when people started coming out the woodworks and saying, no, my uncle showed me this. And then, and then it gave validity to what I was saying. Then you have Mike Tyson and Zab Judah. So what it's become, this whole universe, is exactly what I wanted to do. And now, it has its own legs, which is a beautiful thing.
Well, you even talked to Mike about 52, right? Tyson?
Yes. It's very, very short conversation. I can tell you, Tyson is a very, his energy is indescribable. Like his energy, like I'm gonna say, one of my students, and I ain't gonna mention him by name, he was standing next to me, and out of all the things he could say, he said, "Hey, Mike, could you teach me peekaboo style? I'll do anything." Now, you don't say you'll do anything to a man, especially like a man like Tyson. Mike looked at him and said, "Get a fucking encyclopedia and get the fuck away from me." Excuse my French, but that was his exact words. And I'm looking at him like, how do you get Mike to say something crazy like that and you're attached to me like you? So I didn't want to say too much. Kind of like, when he walked up, they had already told him that I was the man of 52 blocks. And, when we took pictures, we shared a couple of words, and, he was just saying that, like, this was a Brooklyn thing. Like, he said it on his podcast one time. It was like, those 50 block guys were dangerous. Like, and I was just saying it just to say it. Like, he comes from that time.
Wow. So when you travel, like, was the inspiration for you to kind of just collectively get from a historical perspective of like where this came about, how it came about, what was the influence, all the above, I'm guessing?
Well, some of that, like my real aim was to show its effectiveness in the beginning. Like I wasn't really on a history lesson then, or talking that much about it. I wanted to show people that it worked, because the martial art community is way different now than when I came up. Like we still believed in magical kung fu back then. Like the kung fu world now,
the mystical hand.
These guys are intelligent because of the UFC. They know crane style is going to be hard to make work. Like like we believed in crane style and monkey style when I was coming up, and now to see the UFC kind of like decimate those type of things, is like this crowd of martial artists are way more intelligent than what we were. So sure. I wanted to prove that 52 blocks was effective, that it can work, under these circumstances of not just street fighters, but I'm sparring Muay Thai fighters. There's no 52 block man from my day that ever had to spar a Muay Thai fighter, So I was going into areas that was unknown for 52 when I was coming up, like, so that's what I wanted to do, to help grow 52. Like,
Okay. So who were the luminaries that you talked to that kind of gave you, like, I want to kind of jump into the whole Texas thing. I found that fascinating what you were speaking on that. So, like, how did you know where to go and who to speak to?
Well, it was just YouTube. Like, the greatest thing that there was people reaching out to me, and I was crazy enough to go. Like, like even in Texas, when I did that seminar, I didn't know those guys. They were just like, "Would you come down here?" And I said, "Bet." And a week later, I got me a hotel. I went out there. We did the seminar. I sparred them. Like at the end of all my seminars, I spar everybody, so you can know like I'm serious on what I mean. Like I want to show you. I don't want to just talk to you. I can show it to you too. So that thing was like to do the seminar, do a defensive thing, and then spar everybody. And that was kind of what I was doing. And at the same time, battle testing it and at the same time. So
Nice. And how'd you? All right. So, anything you want to add, Ben?
Well, I think it's DVD 3 where you go out to Cali too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you go on his site, there's a whole bunch of the old DVDs that he put together when he was kind of traveling around and filming all this work.
Okay.
And there's footage from out on the West Coast, and you can see the difference. You can see the similarities, right? But you can see the difference in the style, the Mexican influence on the system out there versus the East Coast. So it's really interesting, and Lyte can talk more about the different influences that he saw while he was traveling around, and like regionally how it was different or the same, better than I can, because I've just watched the videos. I've for posterity's sake and for information. But it's interesting to me that this does kind of cross the country, right? There's this web across the country. They had it in, what was it, The Wire that they had it in?
I think so. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so they had it in The Wire. It was in one of the what are those movies with Michael Jai White where he's fighting in jail all the time?
Undisputed.
Undisputed. It was in the Undisputed movies at one point, right? Like it's and the styles are different. If you look at the West Coast style, the way they do stuff is different than the East Coast. And if you look at kind of going back to what Lyte said at the beginning, the philosophy of African American fighters, especially, you look at guys like Sweet Pea Whitaker now, or Floyd Mayweather, right? The whole philosophy of hit and not get hit. That's kind of the driver behind all of this, right? And what you see is this collection of techniques from history and from different cultures. And I mean, like I mentioned, Nicolino Loque, he's from Argentina, right? He's not even from the United States, and he did a lot of the similar stuff to Pep and a lot of these other guys, right? So it even transcends the U.S. the art of this kind of defensive style of fist fighting, right?
Nice. Texas. So how'd you get that historic information far as Jack Johnson, the whole Chitlin? Like, what can you speak on that? That was pretty interesting yesterday.
That was Wilson Pitts. Wilson Pitts, my head boxing teacher. He told me one time, he said, Lyte, you need to watch 4,000 hours of old footage before you can have a conversation with me about boxing. He said, other than that, that started my 4,000 hours of footage I had to gain. And that's where, in the watching the Jack Johnsons, the Joe Gans, George Dixons, Sam Langfords, Boston Tar Baby, watching all of those guys and seeing what he meant. Like, because he's the one that kind of directed me back to boxing, is that this was the mother of 52 blocks. This is where the style came from. And so because of that I was able to soak up all of that boxing information just to have a boxing conversation with my teacher. So yeah, that's where all of that information came about Jack Johnson and and all of those fighters.
I didn't know what the Chitlin circuit was until I
I had
talked
no
to
idea until I think yesterday or when.
Yeah, you should explain it for the audience,
Oh
bro,
yeah,
because that was eye-opening for me. I had no idea about any of that until we talked the first time.
well, the Chitlin circuit was 10 black men blindfolded in the ring, and I think like the great godfather of boxing was a guy by the name of James Figg, who was pretty much doing carnivals, and one of his
Okay.
carnivals was to have part of his carnival was to have two men fighting against each other, and that kind of grew into the Chitlin circuit where it was 10 black men blindfolded in the ring fighting, and so you got to figure if you're blindfolded, how are you fighting? You know,
You better be keeping
yeah,
those in front of
like, like like you're trying to find something to throw a punch at, and Jack Johnson and Jack Bowe were consistent winners on the Chitlin circuit, and their boxing career kind of started there. There was a lot of fighters that started their boxing career from the Chitlin circuit. And and it wasn't just blindfolded, but it was different. It was like a carnival. It was just different styles of fighting, even to where a lot of it kind of was almost MMA-ish, where holding and hitting was allowed. Like that was good. Like that wasn't frowned upon, and maybe a little kneeing or don't. Those things weren't frowned upon just yet. And even when boxing. After the Queensberry rule, like you could hit a man as soon as he went to one knee. Like you didn't have to wait for him to stand up. Like if he went to one knee, if he went from two knees to one knee, you could start punching them in the face again. So you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was definitely all of this great information to boxing that helped me figure out more about 50.
Yeah, I mean 100%. Okay, we got here we go. I'll get you guys. You guys can just give me your quick answer, then we'll keep going. All right. Ben, Tyson versus Paul. Who do you have?
Oh,
the circus is about to come about, man.
If Mike Tyson loses to Jake Paul, it's a setup 100%. There's no way that big gorilla Jake Paul influencer with zero boxing skill could stand up against Tyson, who is still, I mean, have you seen the footage of that guy at 50 working out?
No.
He's horrifying. He's still doing the same stuff that he was doing when he was 20.
100%.
Jake Paul by murder. That's my prediction.
Jake, there will be a conviction at the end of the fight.
Yeah. Jake Paul's gonna lose that. They're gonna carry him out in a casket.
All right, Lyte, quick. Paul, Mike Tyson.
Oh, easy. Mike Tyson for sure. I give a lot of credit to the carnival that Paul has started, but if he does win, it's definitely a setup.
Definitely a setup. Okay, fair enough, man. Fair enough. I mean, it's crazy, but I just tell you, man, you can come out of nowhere, man, and make millions today, right?
Right.
Hey, he's getting these guys. He's getting guys like all these dudes that he's fighting. He's getting them the biggest paydays of their career.
It's just incredible. I'm not saying Paul's talented.
Hat tip to him for that.
Yeah, I'm not saying Paul doesn't have talent or he's not skilled or whatever, but man, come on.
He's not skilled. No, he's not skilled, but he's good at making money.
Yes.
All right, so just want to clear 52 did not come from Predators. It came from boxing. So just to be clear, next question is 52 blocks did not come from Predators. It came from boxing. And I think that's kind of right? Okay. I've sent so many videos to Jake to fight Seth. Ah, my gosh. So Mike Raymond's son here, Seth. Fine young man, 18-year-old, really polite. I really liked. I can't wait to meet him one day. 7 feet tall, 300 pounds or something.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, this kid is it's insane. But really polite kid. I mean, just but anyway, yeah, absolutely huge. Yeah. All right, so we got the weapons. Somebody brought that up. do you incorporate any weapon work in your 52? I'm sure you do weapons, but do you put it into your 52?
Well, one of the weapons that was definitely part of 52 was the razor blade.
Which I got a video on that, man. Thanks to Ben.
The razor blade was usually the weapon of choice. But of course, people use knives. Like, there's people that that's definitely more the jail influence, where you'll see a lot more of the knives and blades and stuff like that. Even though the razor blade was on the streets too. Like, there were fighters that on the street that used the razor blade. Like, you didn't have to be in jail for that.
You weren't okay. Heard that. Okay. And I stand corrected. Son is 7 feet tall, 330 pounds.
Oh Lord! Excuse me. What an error!
Admit I was wrong on 30 pounds. All right, let's hopefully folks can see this. I'm going to box us so it'll show better. Yes.
Somebody trying this at home, man.
This was insane. Thanks, Ben.
All right. I already got 3 in my mouth.
Wow, what's that?
Like, this ain't something you do for fun. It's a regular routine. Practice.
That was insane. There are 3 things. I tell you, there are a few things that give me goosebumps. Watching Old Man Illustration back in the day, the sword, and watching that guy. That was like. So let's hear it. Razor blade, both of yous.
The first place I heard about spitting razors was on the school bus home from North Brunswick High School. I used to ride the school bus with this super hot Puerto Rican girl named Jackie. And I used to sit at the back of the bus, sit at the back of the bus like this, right, making eyes at her. And one day we're on the way home and she starts like putting her hair up and she's putting Vaseline on her face and like taking her chains off, her earrings. And I'm like, what are you doing, Jackie? She's like, I got to fight. And I was like, what? And when I get off the bus, there's going to be a girl waiting for me and I got to fight. And she took a razor out of her purse and put it in her mouth. And I was like, yeah.
Strange place for a razor.
She explained to me later that it's spitting razors, right? Like it's this whole thing that people do. They had a huge thing. You can read up on it where they had Ethiopian immigrants. And this kind of cross-pollination of cultures coming to Canada and spitting razors up there because they were getting harassed by the locals, racist locals, and they were spitting razors and cutting people up.
Wow. I just think, man, that is just one. I was basically watching that I think like 10 times today. It was just, you know what it was? It was the music, it was him moving, it was the rate. It just like all 3 in one. I'm just, and now it's got me interested to do razor, but I am not going to be doing razor alone. I'm going to need some professional instructing.
Yes.
But here's a funny one. This is one of my students under Blade Tech. Dean Franco, new module for Blade Technologies, the Razor Blade. No, sorry, Eric. We will not be having that as a module. Sorry. That was Joel. That was brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah. Dean. What am I doing here? Okay, Dean, your 2002 training goal, double mouth razor, Sinawali, goon style. Uh-oh, what happened to Light?
When he
Oh, okay. All right,
I mean,
constellation.
Lyte can talk more about it. I don't really know a lot about it. My only experience in real life was that girl on the school bus, right? But there's a whole
that
style
alone,
to
man,
it,
was
right?
frightening here.
I mean, like there's a whole thing to it, right, Lyte?
Oh yeah. Well, the guy Ramel Scott that I used to train with, he had a thing of, the razor in the mouth, and he would use Skull and Bones to get it into his hand. Like the moment he was doing Skull and Bones, he was spitting it into this hand. So by the time he started blocking, he's like, you didn't even know the razor was in his hand. And he was like, people's skin would just start busting open. Like once
That's
they
crazy.
figured out
Who's
they've
doing
been
Skull and
cut.
Bones? And then, wow.
Yeah. So he kind of used that move to hide getting the razor from his mouth to his hand. So it was very good at that. And that was usually the reason why you hid the razor in your mouth, is that you wanted it to be like a surprise attack of.
I'm just going to ask you that. Why the mouth? Like, why not? I mean, I don't. Yeah. Okay. Well, that kind of answers it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was the spitting it into your hands, and the surprise attack of it is that a lot of these dudes could juggle these razor blades in their mouth and have a good conversation, and they're talking to you, and then the conversation gets accelerated, and it's like, well, that's how, and then
Before
now
you know it, man, you just got
you
like
get cut,
freaking.
and,
Wow.
so.
Oh, here's a question for both of you. Ask about the dance of death.
Oh, the dance of death. I think that was the funniest thing alive. Maybe just me, because I see things in comedy. The whole time I was with Ra, he never told me about the dance of death. So maybe he held on to that one, but I thought it was kind of comical. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was kind of funny, but it seemed to be effective to the guys that Ramel was doing. They looked pretty scared, but I never heard of it. Like, it was the first time I've seen it. I've heard Rob mention it, but
Scarred Face for Life is one of the best videos on razors. Okay. Is that on YouTube, Seth? I'm guessing. Okay. Anything you want to add, Ben?
I sent you another video of that actor whose name I can't remember, on Larry King, talking about the time that somebody actually spit a razor on him in public and how the whole situation went down. So it's still very much a thing, right? What Jackie told me, I was like, why would you put a razor in your mouth? And she's like, well, I go clubbing, and they check your purse and everything, and it's a way to get a weapon around most security. Like, unless you're going to jail, they're not like having to open your mouth, stick your tongue out, that kind of thing going into the club, right? So the way she explained it to me it's a way to smuggle stuff, right? So you can get, if you're carrying a fixed blade or a folder, they're going to catch it at the door, right?
Yeah.
Unless you got it, unless you're keeping it in your prison wallet or whatever. But that's what they were doing, right? Like they were keeping some kind of weapon around because stuff was always breaking off in all these places. So that at least that's how it was explained to me.
So do you teach the razor, or is it part of your curriculum at a certain point?
Well, I have, I did a breakdown on it, and I think that was just something that that my teacher reached out to me and was like, that's something maybe not to put out like that. So I pulled back.
I can see that responsibility.
So but definitely there's definitely ways of teaching it, and for the person that would want to learn that. Yeah.
Okay. And Seth's okay. Here's the YouTube link for the Scarface for Life. Okay. And we got Richard who's just checked in. Awesome. Okay. All right. What's going? Okay. You got an online course. Obviously, you're actively teaching and
Yes.
all that. So
Yes.
let's hear it. You teach in private
Oh yeah,
seminar.
yeah. I do privates. I want to build up doing more online teaching. I want to start doing like live teaching because I have an online course, and to me that's one of the that was one of my what I added to 52 was to systemize it and to make it into a system that can be taught, and by way of muscle memory. So over just slap boxing. So and that's how the online course came about, and I teach a system of it. I teach the fundamentals too, which is really the footwork and the knowing how to transfer your body weight. So there's a lot of hardcore fundamentals that go into what I teach over just like, how to move your arms around in strange shapes. I teach a lot of fundamentals that build up to that. So I on one online course is 500 lessons. You take 100 lessons, take a test with me. There's a chance to certify in. And my other online course is kind of more like for those that are like already advanced fighters and they don't want to go through a step-by-step process.
Gotcha.
So there's two. There's advanced.lyteburly.com and learn-martialarts.com. And I've also do personals, and I'm still running around teaching classes. I was just in San Antonio working at Dominion MMA. One of my fighters, Lumberjack Burly, he's going to be turning professional soon. And
All right.
now I'm just moving all around trying to find a home. This year I'm hoping to open up a school of 52 blocks. I believe the next step for 52 blocks is brick and mortar. And
That'd be a first, huh? I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's the next dream or goal to
Yeah.
snatch.
Awesome. Awesome. And where to get to? All right. So the Razors is 52 or General Street Culture? Both, right?
Both both. Razors definitely, you can't say that it was like just made for the 52. One thing that was good about it, that the way it was taught to me, shown to me, is that let's say, let me find something I can use. All right. So let's say if this was the razor right here, you kind of cupped into your hand between your thumb. And so that way, a lot of your 52 block moves were still accessible without cutting yourself. And what you're trying to do is run him into the hand, like, of the block or of the strike. Because with the
Gotcha.
razor blade, unlike the knife, I don't have to reach out for you. I just need you to rub up against it. Because, the razor blade cuts you fine. Like it could cut you so fine you won't even know you're cut. Like
Yeah.
it's really a deadly thing because it's cut so fine. So the razor blade practice was more like running them into it over just like trying to reach out and cut them up. So
Yeah. It's like
it worked well for 52 because it was a smaller weapon. But you could do the same thing with a knife if you wanted to.
I can definitely see why you're moving those hands around. And then the man, that's snatch the chain at the bare knuckle or his knee, more 50 tires for sure. What state will that brick and mortar be? It sounds like Texas.
There's a toss up. We're looking at Texas, Georgia,
Or
New York.
Georgia.
Of course, New York would be the epitome. I would love to have.
Oh my God, Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, Brooklyn. I would love to be in
Yeah.
Brooklyn. That would be
Yeah.
a real salute to Brooklyn. But
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. At this point, I'll take whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't really matter. But that would be the dream to have in Brooklyn.
Nice. Thanks, Seth. 7-minute mark. Got it. And snatch the chain. Snatch the chain to 52 move.
Snatch the chain. I've never heard that one. Is he literally talking about like snatching someone's chain? Or?
Glenn, are you literally talking about, you know, we'll find
Not
out.
just
I've
for
seen it
52.
happen.
It's
I've
not
seen
just,
some
they do it down
chains
here
get
too.
snapped.
It's not just for
Yeah,
52.
It's not just
it's not just
52.
52.
No.
I think
So let's
that's
hear it.
more like
Both of you, man. Hey, you know what, Ben? Tell us about teacher. Tell us about your teacher. Like, inspirational, easy to learn from. Let's hear it.
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Your teacher, Lyte. Let's hear it. Is he easy to learn
Oh,
from?
of course. So here's what as a nerd, right? Here's what appealed to me. Is again, because it's this style that's broken up, it's fragmented, right? I mean, I don't even know how many years Lyte spent traveling around collecting all the pieces, right, and putting them into a codified system. You can't find that kind of encyclopedia anyplace else that I've found. That's what's fascinating to me. And then you can sit down with the guy and have a conversation about any era fighter, and he can rattle off, where the footwork came from, where the movement came from, and so for me, as a guy who just nerds out about fighting all day long, that it's digestible, right? Especially on his site. His site is fantastic. The new online training. It's broken down in like 5-minute blocks, and it's one thing, right? And then you check that off and go to the next thing and the next thing, and you'd have to travel for a decade going around to different people to get each piece, right? Whereas you can go to his training and get all the pieces all together in a system that starts with your footwork and then builds up. And he's, I've never asked him a question and had him not respond to me the same exact day with an answer. At one point I was going to bring him down here, and then I ran out of money. I was going to bring him down here for the charity, but he just was like, yeah, man, buy me a ticket. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. So he's ready to pick up chalks and go wherever to rep for 52, which is huge, right? Like, some of the other people that I've come in contact with in the style, because it's so like tight knit, right? Like you got to kind of earn your way in, and it's harder. It's not that they're not going to give you the information, but it's much more challenging. Whereas Lyte has really put it together in this really digestible format. And if you're interested in 52 and you want to get all of it in one spot, not that there's not more specialized stuff going on in other, like in the prison section or, people from other sections. But if you want to get like the whole thing, I don't know anybody else who's put in the work or the time. I mean, it's a fantastic resource, and he's a great guy. He'll get back to you, hook you up with whatever. And he's super knowledgeable. So
okay. Oh, we got some clarification on the what the snatch the chain. So basically, grab a person's chain with your forward headbutt. Grab a person's chain with your mouth. So I guess that's a thing that happens. Headbutt to a grab. We got a couple questions coming in. What does Lyte like or think about 52 folk like Diallo Frazier, Ferris Daniel, and Professor Mo?
Okay, well that's a good one. That could start a whole chain of rattling.
We're not gonna rally chains. Just kidding.
Talk about the ones that I enjoy first, which is Sensei Mo, great man, background, real Harlem Night, Black Harlem, great guy. He allowed me to come teach at his school and for free and train out of there. Diallo Frazier, another great guy, introduced me to Ludacris. That's how I met Ludacris, because of his fortune in life. He's connected with Ludacris and Lorraine Tate, who did a movie using 52 blocks. If anybody hasn't checked it out, it's called Gun Hill. Look it up. and there's some very good 52 block fight scenes done by my brother Fraser Diallo, and he just did the fight scene for the last Fast and Furious. I think it's Tyrese and Ludacris get into a fight, and there's some 52 block overtones in there. Even in the credit, it says 52 blocks choreographer, and it has
Oh, all right.
Fraser Diallo, my good brother up there. Now with Faris Daniel and me, what happened with them is that like I said, I put out the first video on 52, and then I dropped the DVD. And I guess they were trying to drop a DVD, and I messed up their plans because I dropped mine too fast. So we had this real big meeting, and then out of the meeting came they were going to get rid of Lyte Burly. So there was a long period of 52 where I was being attacked by a lot of these guys because they were coming with the jail thing. Like one guy said, "You don't look like somebody that went to jail," and I was like, "And what does that mean?" You know what I'm saying? I think we forgot what jail was. Jail was the place you were taken when you lost the game. Not to knock anybody that went, but it's not college. You know what I'm saying? It's not that type of credit. So that's what they attacked me for. And they spent a lot of time trying to discredit me. And they ended up discrediting themselves because they got into the fight with Ramel or Big K, one of their fighters. And, Ramel beat them up, and it kind of really hurt their credibility. And they were getting like Nike endorsement deals that they lost behind that fight. And it was because they kind of wanted to take control of 52. They wanted to kind of
Okay.
like 52 block.
I've experienced that. People wanted to take control.
Fraser had a great video series out through TRS right around the time that Paul was dropping videos on TRS. He put out a series on through TRS. You remember TRS Video, Dean?
TRS Video. What
they did Paul's original street fighting series. Diallo Frazier put out. He was one of the first guys to put out a video.
But not
series.
Black Panther.
No, TRS Threat Response Systems.
Oh, okay, yeah. When you said the break, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he did a video series years ago on the West Coast version of 52. It's really good. It's a solid series. Anybody interested should check it out for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Please support that Fraser Diallo. Great brother. Great addition to the 52 blocks.
Okay, he's out. Okay, he's West Coast. We got a question. Is the 52 deck still available?
Yes, it is still available. I'm actually back ordered by now. I have like 10 people waiting on it because the reprinting process, the guys that reprinted the deck, because of inflation and all types of stuff, they've changed prices. But yes, the deck is still available. LyteBurly.com. Both decks, the offense, the defense, the book, the digital downloads are still available. And right now we're working on some garments, the t-shirts and hats. Want to bring those back. So LyteBurly.com for anything Lyte Burly and
for the website. Okay. All right. Okay. And future 52 with both of you. So what's you touched on one goal. You want to open up a brick and mortar. What about anything else?
No, I definitely schools across America. I believe if Wing Chun can have schools across America, then so can 52 blocks. So my goal is 52 blocks schools opening across America, 52 blocks fight scenes and movies. I believe 52 blocks will look great on the silver screen if I choreograph the fight scene. So anybody that's looking to do any type of movie with 52 and you need a choreographer, I'm here for you. And that's something else I'm working on too, is the story of 52 blocks. We got a drama we working on. I also do a comedy skit called Buddha Blunt, where it's kind of a spin-off of the drunk boxing, but using marijuana. But all of the fight scenes are going to be from 52 blocks. So just really kind of like, really mass pushing it out to the masses, to even people who probably wouldn't follow fighting, I would want them to know what 52 blocks is.
Yeah.
It's
All right.
only American fighting art, so I think we all should get behind it.
We got the future too. We're gonna be bringing you and Ken on. Hopefully, you guys can start working together and help spread. You know what I mean? It's only gonna benefit the community, right? You guys,
I say this yesterday. I was saying 52 V2K, and when I spoke to him, he didn't. That wasn't on purpose. I was messing up I was butchering the name. So tonight I want to say it right. It's 52 VTK, and check out that brother for his knife work and everything he's doing.
Yeah, and
yeah. So Frazier's video series, Mike Raymond commented, is called Ghetto Blocks. That's right. That was what it was called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What we're doing, Lyte and I, and hopefully I can bring Ken in and whoever else is interested, is down here. I'm doing an outreach for trafficking victims and helping them recover. There's several homes down here that house kids that are rescued off the street from different trafficking scenarios. So I built a program out using performance psychology and martial arts as a base. Guys like Richard Dimitri, Lyte, Jerry Wetzel have all contributed material to the program, and it's going to be used to help these kids recover and kind of get their psychological sovereignty back, right?
Great thing you're doing.
So that's what we're doing together. Hopefully I can get everybody down here at some point. The charity is called Pelea Callejera. In Spanish, it means like street fight. And it's registered through Florida. It's like a full legit thing. So if anybody's interested in helping trafficking victims, hit me up.
I run raffles and FMA discussion. Matter of fact, I gotta make a few announcements at the end of the show. One of them is on the raffle. Actually, here, check this out. So this is a raffle we're doing for sick folks in the Philippines, sick masters. So
Awesome.
what we do is people are kind enough to donate items. It could be a stick bag, it could be lessons, whatever. It could be a multitude of things. And what we do is we raffle them off. We sell the tickets for $5. All the money that we get, we send it over there. But I would be more than happy with you guys to do a raffle for your thing,
Yeah, get everybody in on it. Get Ken and Diallo and everybody. Have the whole 52 family in there.
Yeah. So right now we're up to $700. We've done so far for $700 right now, and I usually we get a late push before the actual raffle. So I'm pretty confident we'll probably get maybe up to like 900 that we're gonna be able to send over to the Philippine Masters. So after that, man, be happy we can run a raffle for you.
That'd be fantastic. I would really appreciate it. It's a great cause, just kids 100%. In need. So
no, for kids, man, yeah, 100%. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, hey, man, this has been awesome. Hopefully we can all stay in touch. Well, Ben, me and you are going to definitely be in touch. We're definitely going to be in touch. Whether you like it or not, man, you're going to be hearing from me. And Lyte, man, it's been a pleasure, and I hope this is not the last time. Definitely want to bring at least you and Ken on.
Yes,
for sure.
Again, bring us on.
I'd like to do it sooner than later so we don't lose traction. So what I'm thinking about doing is after this, I can form a group message you guys, and you guys can just hit me some days and times, and let's see if we could do it sooner and later.
Yeah, I'm pretty free. Just set it up, give me a day in advance, and I'm ready to rock and roll. My day is, it just happens to be that E2 is all I do. So,
hey, man, you're doing something you love, man. Not a lot of people can say that.
Oh, it's incredible journey like this. Like I said, this is, I've got to meet.
Man, if you're doing what you love, man,
there you go. There you go.
But hey, guys, man, appreciate you both, and big thank you to Ben for recommending you and all that. And Ben, I'll be in touch.
All right, talk to you soon, man. Have a great night, guys.
You too, guys. And salute. All right, you guys take care.
See ya.
All right, bye. All right, couple announcements, folks. Raffle 10 days away. Me and Brian Canada. Big thank you to Brian Canada for helping me out with this. But guys, 10 days away, $5 a ticket. You'll be helping older masters in the Philippines. And after that, you guys kind of heard we'll be doing another raffle there to help Ben out. Also, who is next? Who is next? Well, you just kind of heard it. Hopefully we can get Ken and Lyte on. And next to the 12th, I have Renee and Kevin Goat, both Canadian guys. We're going to be talking about metric system. And what that means is, what is your metric system of your system? So in other words, if you say your system is 70% functionality, 30% art, does your methodology match that? In other words, whatever you're doing, does it match that 70% of functionality, 30%? And that we're going to go over stuff like that. So that should be interesting. This is a theme episode, actually. I've been waiting to do for it's been a month. I've just been kind of waiting for the right people in the right time. So look like it's going to happen. The other thing too is I want to kind of make a statement regarding yesterday's test run. Yesterday's test run, I was incredibly rushed. It was 10 minutes. I had to pick up my kid. I was distracted out of it. Lyte was making mention of Instagram post, and he said, the guy, I kind of reiterated and all that. When I found out he was talking about Ken, I should have said something there like, oh, you mean Ken? And I didn't. And obviously, Ken was a little upset that I kind of referred to him as a guy and all that, and understandably so. It was not done maliciously, not with malintent, hardly. Me and Ken have had a lot of dialogue and all that. He's been on the show here like 3 times. So it was nothing malicious. It was an oversight on my part. I am owning up to it. It was something I could have definitely made mention of that. And yeah, no excuses, but I definitely wanted to clear that up. I have since then spoken to him. Things are fine and all that. So I just want to let everybody know that I definitely believe in transparency. I definitely make mistakes, and luckily out of this 400 something shows, I can honestly say that was probably my second mistake. I had a big blunder in the early fall, man. And, you got to own up to them. You do, because I want folks to see. Matter of fact, audience, you guys should hold me accountable. If there's something you think I could have done better, maybe done as well, I urge you guys to reach out to me. I've never said I'm the best interviewer. I'm perfect. Hardly. You know what I mean? I do make mistakes. I could definitely do things better. But if people don't tell me, or you reach out to me individually and say, hey, look, Dean, I thought you could have handled that better. Or hey, I have a suggestion for you. Hey, I got some constructive criticism for you. I would more than happy welcome that. I did this with no background or no knowledge. I just threw myself in here, and it's been a learning curve. Okay. And so by all means, if there's something that I've done that you maybe thought I could have done better, I would urge you to reach out to me. I want to be the best version of myself, not just in martial arts, but the best version of myself when I'm doing these interviews. Okay. So please take me up on that. You're not gonna get nasty, ignorant. Actually, I would be so happy that somebody would take the time and say, hey, look, Dean, I have a suggestion for you. This is something I think you could have done better. I would welcome it with welcome arms, and you would not get an attitude from me. If you talk to anybody, my reputation speaks for itself. I'm very easy to approach and speak to. Okay, so that's that, folks. I want to thank everybody for watching in. Watch out for the. I'm going to send a group message to Ken and Lyte. Hopefully, get them on. And yeah. And other than that, great show, history, and all that. So hope you guys enjoyed it. And next show Tuesday, Kevin, Goat, and Renee. That's going to be interesting, man, because they're both characters. All right, guys. You guys take care, and I'll see you next time. Raffle. Don't forget it. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna play this for you guys before I leave. I have to see this again. Wait a minute. Bear with me.
They're trying this at home, man.
All right, guys. You take care. I'll leave this for you to watch.
I already got 3 in my mouth.
Wow, what's that?
Like this ain't something you do for fun. It's a regular routine. Practice. Yeah,